Recording. Screen sharing. Don't judge me for everything I have on my desk. Uh-oh. Okay. Okay, welcome to our NACWE members only call for September. First Tuesdays are open to everyone. Those are our Inspired Business Cafe calls. Hi, Nita. And they're open to everyone, but all other Tuesdays are for members only. And if we have fifth Tuesdays in any of these months, about 4 times a year, we do a special event for you. So stay tuned for that. I just want to run you through a few things that are new for NACWE members in 2017 as we sort of go through this last part of the year. Very important things, and I'm going to zoom through them. If you need to take a screenshot of them, or I'll send this little slide thing too, we'll put it in the NACWE members group, but you need to know these things. You already know our mission is to connect, create, and collaborate in community, and as we have gone around and done a NACWE Circuit Rider Leadership Tour, I've actually started adding in some E-words, and those are, we kind of are entertained, encouraged, big time, thanks to our leaders, Barb especially, educated and equipped to be great entrepreneurs. I love the E's. Now I love the E's and the C's. We might have to do an N and an A and a W group of words as well. That would be great fun for me. Oh, it's not letting me. Go to the next slide. There we go. You need to know that we're in the middle of a membership drive, September 5th through September 30th, but it's the drive for everyone. If you're not a member or a fan coming in for the first time, you're coming in at a 10% discount. So if you go to nacwe.org/join, you'll see that discount is there, and there are not just 1 payment options, but 2 payment options and 3 payment options now. My back office is whirlwind working hard to make that happen for everyone. If you're a member and you're an affiliate, every time you bring a friend in that's not been a member of NACWE before, you get $50. And we've actually started kind of stretching that one, and we're going to do a little extra for some of you who are bringing in former members as well. And then if you're a former member, you can rejoin at your original fee structure. And I put or less because we had a new member coming back in who was at a really high fee structure that we don't even have available anymore. So know that we'll make a deal with you to get you back in. We miss our former members, and I have several wanting to come back in. Y'all put a little pressure on Rachel because we were pushing her to come back in as well. Then in November 9th through 12th, we have a writing planning retreat. This is going to be perfect right on the back of Rachel's month of strategic planning here in September, Kim's month in November, and she and I are going to do money mindsets together. And then we're ready to plan our next year, right? So we're going to use this retreat as, it's always a self-care retreat. We have a chef there feeding us. We have a massage therapist. This year we're bringing in a yoga instructor. You have a lot of free time to take care of yourself. But we do also have a couple writing sessions planned Pomodoro style, so that you can really crank out some work. And we're going to do a rough draft plan of our next 15 months of the year. And we only have 5 spots left at that retreat center. It doesn't hold many more than that. So jump in. There's our opportunity to jump in right there. Then for the members only, we want to do a chat session with you. And I have had so much fun doing this because I've learned so much that I didn't know. We can't know just chatting on Facebook. So that's a valuable session for me. I hope it's a valuable session for you. We want every member to have a proud member square. I have a picture of one of those in one of the slides next. Then we're going to give you education presentation opportunities. It doesn't matter what your entrepreneurship is, it's all valuable. We all need it. We all need to know and learn from each other. You do have to have a proud member square. You do have to be an affiliate, and you do have to be in that membership directory before we will feature you in the fan page of over 12,000 people. Yay, we hit 12,000 a couple days ago and went way over. Or before we will feature you as a member in the small member group as well. But we want that you'll get to be a webinar expert, offer a course, and we're open to, if that course is 1 session or 12, we're open to it all, and we're going to make sure these are packaged and saved so that you can actually put them on your website as well and sell them on your website if you want to. We don't want you to offer them for free because we're not offering them for free. So we'll make a deal with you there. So you have all sorts of marketing opportunities anyway. After that interview, you can be, we want you to be weekly putting yourself in Marketplace Monday on the member and the fan page now. Thank you, Allie's got us up on the fan page on Mondays. That means you're talking to thousands of people instead of 100. We want you to be a featured member on both of those pages after that interview and those other requirements. We will open up We Wednesdays to you. Also on the member and now newly on the non-member fan page as well. And then we want to offer members an option to be a pre-conference speaker. More on that later and when we chat. This is what the Proud Member Square looks like. Allie will do that for you. There's her email address right there. You need a decent headshot and just a quote about what NACWE has meant to you. And then there's where you sign up, affiliate sign up. That's where you sign up as an affiliate. It actually takes about 1.5 minutes. And it's secure. There should be an S there. And there will be when you go online. And then you are eligible to receive $50 every time a new member joins using your affiliate link. And our computer, don't ask me how, you know, tech gurus aren't here. Allie understands it, but I don't. But our computer recognizes that link even 6 months later. If your friend came back in and thought, I'm going to sign up, I'm going to go ahead. She still signs up under you because there's a cookie attached to her, that link from that point forward. Not sure how that works. And then you need to be in the membership directory, and there's how to get into the membership directory. Let's get Rachel in here talking to us about strategic planning for the rest of the month. I'm so excited. I do a strategic planning. I've always done strategic planning for nonprofits. And Rachel's really good at working with nonprofits as well. But I think she's going to bring, I had a sneak peek at her slides, and I think she's going to bring some things to the table that I actually haven't brought before. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to mute me. Lou and Rachel are going to jump in and manage the slides and everything. So I'm ready for y'all when you're ready.
Great. Karen, if you'll just stop slide sharing or screen sharing, then I can share.
I took it down, but I didn't finish.
There we go.
Let me pray us in while y'all are getting your slides set up. Will that be all right?
Mm-hmm.
Father God, we're so grateful that you order our steps in these plans, and we don't want to make any plans that aren't ordered by you and ordained by you. So I would just pray for great wisdom and peace as Rachel brings these next 3 weeks of lessons on planning to us. I would pray that we would take them one step at a time because it's a lot of information. You would show us exactly what ordered steps need to be taken each week as we learn from her. I thank you for our NACWE sisters, Lord. This community has meant so much to me for 5 years, and for 5 more years, we're hoping it means even more. Give us also wisdom and maybe be great stewards of what you've given us to work with here as a NACWE community. We ask these things in Christ's name.
Great. So first off, before I introduce Miss Rachel, everyone knows Miss Rachel already. I did post a handout file in the NACWE Facebook page. So if you want to get that real quick, that will go along with what she's going to cover these next 3 weeks with us. So you'll build on it each week. So Rachel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us these next 2 weeks. I'm so excited. I'm going to just hand it over to you and take off.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And everyone's probably on mute. So it's wonderful to be here. I am a previous NACWE member that's now going to be coming back because I feel all left out. Barbara and I talk all the time, and she keeps talking about this great stuff that's happening, and I hear left out feeling, so I'm running to catch the train. So this Tuesday and the next 2 Tuesdays, I'm going to be talking about strategic planning. We're doing it in about 50 minutes. So my plan is to keep it very simple. When I do presentations, I do have a lot of slides because I think it's sometimes easier for folks to process, especially if you want to go back and print or anything like that. So the goal is to get through this in probably less than about maybe 35, 40 minutes. I can leave time for any questions that anyone may have for me. So if you can hold your questions to the end, just write them down, etc. Then at the end, you can kind of ask all the questions at the same time. Cool? Got a deal? All right. All right, so the first lesson is strategic planning biblical? I wanted to start with this because as Christian business owners, one of the things I've heard quite a few Christian women business owners say is, well, God is directing my path, so why do I have to plan? And so I normally start with, well, actually, planning is a biblical principle. And so we're going to look through the Bible at several what I call biblical strategists that have used strategic planning to actually fulfill God's purpose in your life. Next slide. All right, we're going to start with objectives. This is the trainer and the teacher in me. Always start with what we're going to learn today. So we're going to define strategic planning, identify why strategic planning is important, and we're going to identify some biblical strategies and principles used to implement God's strategies for our businesses and even our lives. Right, one of my favorite scriptures, Proverbs 19, verse 21. So many of the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. So although God expects us to plan, we know that as Christians, God's going to direct those plans. And at the end of the day, we should be prayerful about the plans that we have for our lives and the plans that we have for our businesses. Next slide. All right, so what is strategic planning? The first thing I want to point out, and is really in bold, is strategic planning is an activity. Right, it's an action. It's something that takes time. It can be exciting, as exciting as you want it to be. I've been part of strategic planning processes that God knows were very, very painful because they were long. It's not exactly the most exciting thing that you can do. However, it is necessary and it's an activity and it's something that is continually happening. So strategic planning shapes and guides your business and your organization. You define who you serve, what your business is, what it does, and why you do what you do. It's also a written plan. So it's not something that's just in your head that you kind of, well, I got it in my head, I'm going to kind of go with it. It's something that you have to write down and create an actual plan. And this helps staff, it helps you, it helps your stakeholders to understand where you're going and how you're going to get there. The plan should also include action steps for progress and how you're going to measure success. In the world of strategic planning, we call that measurable outcome. So how will you know that this plan is successful? That's basically what a measurable outcome is. You have to be able to say, whatever the goal is, whatever your goal is, you have to be able to measure it to say, how am I going to know that this is successful? Next slide. All right, this is just a visual. And the arrows, actually, I couldn't figure out how to do a circle. So I just did 2 arrows to kind of show strategic planning. It sets your priorities. It focuses your energy and resources. When you have a large organization, or even, okay, it doesn't even have to be large. When you have an organization and a business, if you don't focus on what you are doing or what your plan is, what your goals are for that space of time, as someone who's a creative, your mind can go in a million different ways, a million different things. And you can't do a million different things in your business as much as you'd want to. So your strategic plan focuses you and your stakeholders on a specific time frame and specific projects. It strengthens your operations. It ensures that everyone, you, your employees, your stakeholders understand your goals and are working towards a common goal. It's also a way for establishing an agreement. So everyone agrees because they've gotten this strategic plan or they've worked on it together. They understand what the intended outcome and results are. It's also a way for you to assess and adjust your business's direction in response to a changing environment. Lots of the things that we've learned with small businesses, and I will say sometimes even Christian businesses, is I will hear people say, well, God is not changing. So what he gave me to do, that's how I'm going to do it. And regardless of what changes in society, technology, they want to stick to this non-changing attitude. And so part of what Our goal is as Christians, when we go out into the world is going to change. How Paul did ministry in his day is not, we can't do ministry the same way physically. The principles are the same, but we have to change how we present the gospel. The same thing with your business. So your business goals or what the intent of your business may not change, but how you go about that intent, you have to be flexible because our environment are changing, your customers change, etc. Next slide. Sorry, I'm used to pushing the button. All right, so why is it important? Why is strategic planning important for us? It keeps everyone on the same page. And I cannot begin to tell you, even if you are a business of one, I'm a business of one, and sometimes I get off my own page, right? So this strategic planning helps to keep everyone, even if you're a business of one, on the same page. It's also helpful for if you're getting clients or if you're trying to determine who's my customer. Who's my customer? Not everyone is your customer. They're not. So even in determining who's my customer, what's my niche, who am I serving, this strategic plan will help you to do that and help keep you on the straight and narrow. It sets goals and milestones for your organization, and it provides guidelines. Once again, what your organization is or your business, who it serves, what it does, why it does it, and this focuses on your future. So the strategic plan normally can be a 6-month, it could be a 9-month, it could be a 5-year plan, right? The point is it focuses on the future. It allows for sound planning because there is some financial planning as a part of strategic planning. It provides guidelines. Did I say that already? I'm sorry, but you see why that's important, right? I had it more than once. And it clearly outlines where you're going and the actions you need to make progress. Next slide. All right, so is strategic planning biblical? Yes, it's biblical. It is biblical, and I'm going to show you now why it's biblical. All right, next slide. So today I'm going to go over three of my favorite. These are my favorite Bible personalities, and sorry, not three, five. 5 of my favorite Bible personalities, and I call them biblical strategists because these 5 Bible personalities used strategic planning to fulfill God's purpose in their lives. And we're going to look at exactly how they did that, and the principles that they use are still applicable today for your business. Next slide. All right, Joseph, my first favorite, my brother named Joseph. And for every slide, I also put the scriptures associated. I like to do that when we're talking about the Bible because I don't want people to think I'm just pulling stuff out my hair, that you can actually go back and check me. Write me and say, Rachel, that's not what the scripture says, because I do it to my own pastor. So put the scripture there so you can go back and you can look at it yourself. All right, so Joseph, of course, we know Joseph's brother sold him into slavery. He went to Egypt. The king, Pharaoh, was having these dreams. No one could interpret the dreams, and Joseph could. And then one of the dreams that Pharaoh had was about famine coming to Egypt. And so he put Joseph in charge of getting Egypt ready for famine, right? And there's a strategy. If there's going to be a famine in this huge land with, I would think, millions of people, then obviously there needs to be a plan. So the first thing is Joseph identified the timeline for implementation of his strategic plan. So it was a certain number of years of famine and a certain number of years of overabundance when things would grow, right? So there was a very specific timeline for that. Joseph assessed the land, the employees, and the resources. The scripture actually says he went out and he looked at what was available. He looked at the land, what was growing where, how much of it did we have. He looked at who he had on his team to help him implement that. And he looked at the resources. Where are we going to store all this stuff? Where would people bring it? How were they? I mean, the scripture doesn't say it, but I would assume that there was probably even order to how did the grain that was produced, how was it brought to the storehouses? What was the schedule? Maybe it was a 9 to 5. Maybe it was just on weekends, right? So there was even a schedule for that. He developed and implemented a timeline for building his inventory. So if you're going to have years of famine and you're going to have years of plenty, obviously during that years of plenty, you have to know, okay, year 1, we're going to have 50 million pieces of grain, right? Then year 2, we need to have 100 million pieces of grain. And so there was obviously a timeline by which to build this inventory, because when you're going to feed an entire country, and his plan also included that if other neighboring, because this famine, as you know, would not just affect Egypt, but it also affected surrounding areas, sometimes very distant areas, because his brothers came to Egypt to get food, right? So Joseph not only thought about, right now for me and my business in Egypt, how is this going to impact us? But on a wider scale, how does what we have impact others? How is what I have plentiful that can actually create an income? Because we'll see later that Joseph actually sold grain, right? The grain they had in Egypt. How can this create an income for my business? He implemented regional collection of food and grain. So yes, if you look in these scriptures, he actually had different areas in Egypt where grain was collected. So you can actually go to your regional BJ's, AKA Grain Depot, and you can get the grain that you needed. You didn't have to travel clear across the city, right? He actually had regional collection for food and grain. He also kept meticulous records in the beginning. However, the grain became so abundant that after a while, Joseph was like, oh, whatever. We have tons and tons of grain. So the Bible actually says that he kept records for as long as he could, and that it became so much that he was like, all right, I've had enough of grain. Seems like we have enough. Let's keep it moving. And then he implemented a system for disbursement and sales, a sales plan for the inventory. And that's how he met his brothers again, right? Because they came to buy grain. And so principles right here, timeline, assessing what you have. How are you going to sell and how are you going to make money? How are you going to attract the money that you make? And keeping good records. Next slide. All right, Moses. So Moses brought children of Israel out. They were a pain in his behind, but he brought them out of Egypt, and they were just giving him the blues. And so they had grown so much that they would bring every little problem they had, they brought it to Moses. Every little problem they had, they brought it to Moses. So Moses' father-in-law saw it and was like, Moses, this is not going to work. They're going to wear you out. These people are crazy. They're going to wear you out. And so you got to have a system here, buddy, for managing all these people that God has given you. So Moses listened to godly wisdom, and Jethro said, look, you need to create leaders and divide folks into different areas, and have folks bring leaders the small issues, and then the larger ones they can bring to you. So Moses listened to godly advice, which is the second part of strategic planning, that you cannot do it in silo. You have to do it. You have to do it with godly counsel and seeking advice from others. And then he trained the leaders. He trained the people first on what God's law was. So if those leaders want to be all crazy, the people could say, no, that's not what God's law said. So he trained them in God's law, all the people. And then he had identified capable leadership who could judge specific numbers of Israelites. Same principle in business, right? Is you identify who can you trust on your team, what team, you need to create a team, who can you trust, and your team's going to help you to implement and give you a godly team, I might add, godly advice on how to further grow and further implement your business. Next. So Joshua is a warrior in the Bible. And so Joshua was going to be the man who eventually defeated, bring down the walls of Jericho. But obviously, when you go to a large city, you just can't go and walk into the city and kind of take it over. There has to be an actual battle plan, a strategic plan for how you're going to approach this. So Joshua had to seek God and listen to God's guidance in how are you going to get these walls down for a city that you've told us that we're going to conquer. So Joshua understood one of the third principles of strategic planning for a Christian business owner is we have to seek God's advisement, and we have to be listening very, very carefully to what that is. Because sometimes people can say, God told me to tell you this, or God says this and God says that. And it sounds great. It sounds wonderful. You're like, wow, that's powerful. But God will always confirm it with you. He is not going to tell somebody else something he hasn't already told you. Normally in my life, when somebody else comes and tells me something, God has already confirmed it. It's a confirmation. It's not the first time I'm hearing it, type of thing. So Joshua understood the importance of seeking God's advisement when moving forward with his plans. He sent spies ahead to assess the vulnerability of Jericho. So when we are making our plans, we need to do what we call a competitive analysis, or what also a market analysis is another name for it. And that's where we assess who are our competitors, who is out there, and for lack of a better term, and I know this is not very Christian of me, but who do you need to conquer, right? Who are your competitors? Who are the people who are in the way of your purpose? And so we need to assess that. That's a true assessment of business as well. And God will always give us a very specific plan. It's not going to be vague. It's going to be a very specific plan for how we accomplish our goal. And for Jericho, it was marching around those walls 7 times and blowing instruments and then shouting. Right? Does that make sense to any of us? Absolutely not. But God's logic is not our logic. God is timeless, so his time is not our time either. And so God's very specific instructions were march around quietly for a certain amount of days in a specific order. The priests were leading, and then who was following, and they were marching around 7 times. And on the 7th day, there was a very specific plan. Next one. I understand your cue, Lou. You're like, okay, move on now, Rachel. Nehemiah, another one of my favorite Bible characters. That was I was a strategist. So Nehemiah was he was a slave. He had been taken a slave, and the king really loved him. And Nehemiah was very concerned about his city, and the walls were in disarray, and his city was in turmoil, and his heart ached. He wanted to go back. So the king granted him permission to go and fix the walls. One of the first things that Nehemiah did is he rode around the city, and he assessed what the damages were. He acquired the necessary documents, he secured resources, and Nehemiah even had an investor. So before he left that king, he said to the king, can you also give me some stuff? Because I'm going, I don't got nothing, king. Can you hook me up with some stuff? And the king said, yeah. So before Nehemiah even went to do what God called him to do, he had an investor, because the plan he had was going to cost money and resources, and Nehemiah had nada. So he even had an investor to help him fulfill God's purpose. He assessed the damage to the walls. Before you can move on, you got to assess what is your business? What are you doing? Who are you serving? Where are you serving them? He had a work plan. He had assigned folks to different parts of the work, and he distributed the assignments, right? And then he kept track of it. He would check in on folks to see how they were doing, how far along they were. And I'm sure that these were people that Nehemiah trusted. So it's not about micromanaging, but part of strategic planning is once you have the plan in place and you've dispersed it to your leaders, whether in your business or on your team or your stakeholders, you have to keep track of how is each part of this plan, each person's part, how is that pulling together? And then you need to, the third one was when he created a strategy around ensuring the safety of workers, he had to be flexible. Yes, they were building the wall, but as they built the wall, they had issues. They had people who didn't like the fact that they were building this wall and were trying to cause drama, right? And Nehemiah was like, I don't want to show these people these hands. So before I do that, let's figure out a way to keep our workers safe. So they worked with a tool, a jackhammer in one end and a sword in the other, right? So Nehemiah just came to build a wall. He wasn't coming to look trouble, but trouble came to him. So he had to adjust his plan so that he could meet the trouble and finish what God told him to do. So we got to be flexible as well. My next strategist, Paul. So when I was doing my research, Paul came up and I was like, Paul, what Paul got to do with this? Paul was like troublemaker to Christians at first, but God used him, so I can't say anything about that. So Paul, when Paul was establishing churches, I learned in my research that actually he looked for very specific cities, and he looked for cities in which had the largest population, and he looked for gateway cities. So cities in which people came, whether it's a port, so people were coming in or came to visit, so he could spread the gospel, because guess what happened? Those folks are going to go back to wherever they came from, and they were going to spread the gospel. And I was like, wow. So the Bible, even with strategy, talks about location, 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 right? That's important. Where is your business? Where are you serving? Where are your customers? Do you do a brick and mortar or do you do online? Where is your location? That's really, really important. Paul also identified leaders in different cities. He trained them and set them in place. So if you're planning to, if part of your strategic plan is to expand your business, obviously you can't be everywhere at once. So for example, NACWE affiliates, that's a good example of you identify some folks who are interested in spreading the word about NACWE. You empower them and give them the resources they need, and you set them loose. You bring them in, folks, bring them in, right? But you have a centralized way of doing that, but they're outreaching. These are folks that are reaching out into the community to help you fulfill your strategic plan. Paul also was really good at assessing the progress of established ministries. And anytime there was trouble in a ministry, even if he could not be there, he had a plan for providing support and advice. So he didn't just, say, hey, NACWE affiliates, here's your link, here you go. Godspeed, and don't call me with no trouble. No, if there was an issue that came up or a question that someone may have had that a NACWE affiliate can't answer, guess what? Paul was like, call me on the main line, and I will assist you with that. Paul also supported his leader. So if there was a NACWE affiliate or a NACWE member that was trying to, give trouble, Paul came to the aid, and he came to the support of his leadership, of his members, because why? If your members can't do what they're supposed to do, right? If they can't do what they're supposed to do, your strategic plan stands still, because your strategic plan cannot just be done by you. You need a team. So if your team is not empowered, if your team is not refreshed, if your team is not energized to do your business and not protected, right? So your strategic plan has to be protected. It has to be protected in prayer. It has to be bathed in prayer. And the people who are helping you to implement a strategic plan, they also need to be prayer warriors. I call Bob the prayer ninja. Like, seriously, they got to be ready to fly some kicks and wield some swords and punch some throats, right? To get that purpose fulfilled. Next slide. All right. And I'm actually near the end. Yay. So some Bible lessons. I know I went through really fast, but hopefully you can get through. I want to get to questions if there are any. So some biblical lessons. I know, Lou, you're trying to put me out. Lou's like, hurry up and finish. So seek God whenever you make plans for your business or organization. And we saw that the 5 strategists that we talked about, in all of that, they sought God. Create a clear plan and write it down. It shouldn't be in your head. It shouldn't be on scraps of paper all over the place or sticky notes sticking all over your walls. It should be a nice, clean, clear document that you can share with others and then you can follow yourself. It should include goals, objectives, timelines, who's responsible for what tasks, and how are you going to ensure, once again, measurable outcomes, how are you going to ensure this plan is successful? This second one, don't worry ahead too much about it. Next week when we meet again, we're going to delve in that a little deeper. So no, don't get a headache over that one. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. You need to communicate the plan, the action steps, and assignments to who you're assigned. And you need to make sure they understand. They understand what their responsibilities are, when it's due, and why this is important to the fulfillment of your strategic plan. And as we can see with the 5 strategies that we just talked about, and that's just 5. Strategic plan is extremely important for your business as a Christian business owner. God wants you to be successful in your endeavors. He's going to do his part. He expects you to do yours. Faith without works is dead. You can have all the ideas and all the plans and all the aspirations that you like, but if you don't take steps to start to implement those and start to walk in God's purpose, it's just faith. It's just faith. And faith alone is not enough. We got to put that action to it. We have to step out in faith and say, God, I don't know what I'm doing, how I'm going to do this, but I know you've called me to do it. So I'm going to take the first step in obedience and call someone or join a group or get a coach. Those are all steps of faith, right? All steps of faith that you can take in order to move forward to a strategic plan. So that's actually the end of, should I go and do upcoming modules, or should I take questions first and then keep going? Okay. So upcoming modules, we have 2 more weeks that we're going to be together. The next 2 weeks are going to be very intensive. So there is actually a handout, and actually a couple more handouts I'm going to give Lou to upload. And I'm hoping to also send out some instructions for pre-work. Next week is going to be a lot of information that I'm giving. So be prepared to take tons of notes. And then the third week, we're actually going to spend some time doing work, because that's how I kind of teach. I don't always like to talk. So you're going to have your pens, your papers, or your laptops with you when you come to lesson number 3, because we're actually going to be working. You're going to pull up your strategic planning template, and we're actually going to start to put some verbiage in the different sections, and we'll talk about those sections next week. And then by the third week, pull that template up, and we're going to do some work, and we're going to talk about what are you thinking, where are you stuck, etc. Next slide. Oh, Q&A. How about that? I have my little Q&A dice in there. Any questions, comments? I know this was really fast.
It was really good, and it was really powerful, and it was, for me, an amazing reminder of, you know, you only think of 1 or 2 of those biblical characters in a business sense. You know, I always think of Paul, because he was a tent maker, but to go back and look at all of those people was so valuable, and the way that they did it and the way they equipped themselves, and just, that was mind-blowing for me as a business leader. So thank you for that.
Wait, you're welcome.
I'm look at the chat room. Everybody unmute yourselves if you have questions. Jump in.
I do. I mean, first of all, Rachel, thank you for your passion and energy, because I was like, can I borrow some of this? But I also love just beginning the whole process. I realize it's a long process. You're not going to write a strategic plan this month. You might if you work between sessions and, you know, next month, follow through on what Rachel gives you. So before we leave, Rachel, do you have where can you send us to, like, do a strategic plan class with you or your team or whatever? Put that in the chat room at least, because it's not on the slides, and I really should have pressed you to put it on in every week. But I know you'll put it in there later, but put something in there we can go look at. Or at the bottom of your slides, right? The link.
So you want something specifically around strategic plan? I have folks, if you need help with a strategic plan, how you can contact me.
Yeah.
I do actually have a slide on that. So I call it power planning sessions, which I think is the next slide.
It is. Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. So I have power planning sessions, and that's where I call it.
There you go.
That's how to contact me if you need me. And then the next slide should be some offers I have for NACWE. There you go.
Oh, okay.
What we call power planning sessions. I call them brain dumps, but apparently a brain dump is not really a good marketing visual. It's just not.
So back up to the slide before. Let's get a sneak peek of that one. I want to get a screenshot of that one. And we'll put those, we'll make sure everybody has those. But I'll tell you what, I mean, I'm looking forward to everything that you have to teach, because I do strategic planning and it's fun.
It can be.
You know, but it's also a little bit overwhelming when you look at the whole picture and you think 13 steps, 7 steps, you know, and I'm trying soul into this. I really need to think through this. I really need to pray through this. So it can be a little frustrating, but I appreciate that, and I can't wait to see where you're getting ready to take us. I love going back to Ezra and Nehemiah, because there's miracle after miracle after miracle after every step, right? And it's a great reminder to us that as we're getting ready to plan, if we will put our heart and soul into it and we will seek the Lord first, He's going to fulfill, you know, exactly the plan He wanted to fulfill, even to the point of having somebody like an evil king give millions and millions of dollars and military protection and various. He can do that for them. He can do that for us as well. So I'm just really encouraged to start again. I think I'm gonna focus on the publishing count as we do the strategic plan steps and see what we get. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So Anita in the chat room had a question, and it says, do you have a strategic plan presentation geared towards network marketers, or is there really any difference in the approach?
No. So with network marketing, there really is not any difference in the approach. It's the same principles that you would use. Obviously, depending on what the network marketing product is or services, you know, things may change, meaning content. But the 7 principles that we're going to talk about, absolutely, it can still be used. And also keep in mind that lots of network marketing, the companies have their own very specific guidelines of what you can and cannot do. So just ensure that when you're making a strategic plan for yourself and your network marketing business, that you make sure you research what those expectations are, because you don't want to violate anything and then get put out of the network marketing business, because principles are the same.
And thanks, Anita, for bringing that up, because we really have made a conscious effort. We're talking to some people who are really high up in network marketing companies and asking those same questions. Are there differences? Are there similarities? How do we help them? And so we're going to try to start really addressing the group of NACWE members that are network marketers, because I do think there are some similarities and some differences, and you brought up the most important one. They have their own guidelines. It's their brand.
Yep.
You're a part of that brand, and you have your own identity as well as a business owner and that sort of thing, but you do have to follow their examples. And I have some we'll do some special things for our network marketers coming up soon, and I have some very specific examples of things that they can do during their strategic planning. So this is great. Rachel, you've got the chat room blowing up. I don't know if you...
Oh, cool. I can't really...
wants to
pop. A lot of amens, and everyone loved the Grain Depot. That was a hit.
Oh, yeah. That's trademark.
Yes.
Feel free to use it. No charge.
Does anyone else want to jump in with any questions? No.
So before we go, can we go back to the power planning, because I want to talk about that a little bit.
Yep.
How that ties into this. And then I think I wanted to decide after that. So what I was saying was the power planning sessions are kind of brain dump. So it's sometimes some folks have all this stuff in their head. They know how to get it on paper and organize it. I'm really good with that, what I've learned. And so I've moved away from coaching. And so what I'm doing instead is what I call these power planning sessions. We spend 2 or 4 hours together, and you leave baffled and amazed by what you got out of your head and on paper and organized. And that's your first step towards your strategic planning, right? Is to get all those thoughts in your head and get them organized, and get them, figure out what's not going to work, what is going to work, what just sounds good in your head, but is really not that great when you say it out loud. So this is what a power planning session is, and they're 2 and 4 hour sessions. And there's a special code for NACWE. And then the next slide is something else. For you guys, so I do a lot of work with nonprofits, and I know that in NACWE before, there were some folks who were interested in starting nonprofits. So next month, I am doing the second roundabout of nonprofit bootcamp. It's online, it's virtual, you do it at your own pace. And it's a 4 module bootcamp for you, and you once again, you do it at your own pace, and there's actually a special price for NACWE as well. And then lastly, and I didn't add this in, but I want to do it because, otherwise Barb will have my head, is Barb and I are planning a conference for next year. And so next week and the following week, I'll have information on that in the slides, because a rule of strategy, do not anger the prayer ninja. And so I always want her praying on my behalf.
Rachel, you're hilarious. So I just want to pop in here and just say that I have had the blessing of actually working side by side with Rachel. We did a conference in June, and actually we're going to be in Lewiston, Idaho next month together. And she walks out what she talks, okay? So she has really helped me by example. I'm not quite here yet to the strategic planning, but we're moving rapidly in that direction. So, but anyway, what Rachel speaks about, what she preaches, she actually practices. So this isn't just like a good idea in her head. It is what she does. So thank you for being so passionate and coming today to share with us, because you rock. I'll pray for you anytime. I will.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Rachel,
it looks like Kim Smith is unmuted. Kim, did you have a question? Or you're just not muted?
No, I did not. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
I do. So are all of these virtual sessions on Zoom so we can see each other the whole time? We can talk back and forth. What are you using to do?
So I'm actually sending out the link. I pre-record them on Zoom, and then I send out the link, and you go through the lesson, and you actually have homework. And then built into this is actually a 30-minute. We're then going to have a, I don't know if this round is group coaching or individual, but either way, there is either a group coaching session with everyone. There's only 10 spots because I like to keep it small, 10 spots for this. And so the 10 folks will get together and we'll talk about any questions. Access to me via email is part of the 4 weeks that you're doing this, but we do have a live one-on. I don't remember if this one's one-on-one, 30 minutes each, or a larger group. I change it every time. I don't remember what this one is, but yes, it will be a one-on-one. You'll have access to me via email, and you'll have homework after each session. Well,
good. Well, okay, so we have a few minutes left, and normally at this time, if there's no more questions, we open it up if anybody wants to just plug their, type in your name, your business, your website, and what you offer. If anyone wants to say anything, they're welcome to say something. We do have a few minutes. We have about, 10 minutes. So anyone want to type theirs in? I'll tell you one thing that I just, we've been on the road here. We're going to post a blog post about it. And Karen just showed a really cool little mini tour of Rita's house, and the quilt and the quilting machine. Yesterday we had the pleasure to go to a quilt museum, and they were showcasing these quilts from the Philippines. And they showed, it was basically started in 1996. A person went there, a Japanese girl had gone to this island, Kawahagan, I think is the name, in Philippines, and taught them how to make a quilt. And so these people in this island started to create their own quilts. And originally they were following like the rules. And then of course it merged into their own style, and they've created their own business. Basically they realized, wow, we can build these quilts together and make a lot of money. And so that's become a commerce for them. And so it just made me realize, as I think through, the work we do as entrepreneurs, who are we inspiring? We don't know. And how do we walk alongside other people? And I think it's all about continuing to tell our story and what we do. And so as you put your information in here about your brand, don't just do that with us, do that with so many people, because you never know that you might ignite an entire industry on an island somewhere. You just don't know what you're doing. And hearing Rachel speak this morning was with such passion and, just authority on the Bible. Just makes me realize, like, that's what we have to do as entrepreneurs. So tell your stories, share your business. Don't be shy, because you can change the world. Literally, that woman changed an island. So, okay. So, anyone want to jump in and say anything?
Lou, I just wanted to share something that Rachel and I kind of discovered on the way along our path. So we decided to do this Unfold Bloom Burst conference, writers conference, The Power of Telling Your Story, last year in Spokane. And through part of the advertising, so we advertised locally on the Christian radio station, so they did just a free announcement for us. And there was a woman in Lewiston, Idaho, about 2 hours south of us, that actually heard it. Only one time did she hear it, but it sparked the interest. And so from that, she had sent me an email. I responded the same day. Within a couple hours, she said, I was really even surprised that you responded, which I thought, wow, what does that say about people she's contacted in the past? But anyway, but just through that opportunity, now Rachel and I will have an opportunity to go minister to the Lewiston, Idaho, Clarkston, Washington area, a valley that has probably 100 churches that will be invited. And then we also get to meet with a group of women who have had children die, and we'll have an opportunity that Friday night to minister to them. So just a walking out example of kind of what Rachel talked about planning, but on the way, God does amazing miracles that we would have never anticipated. And we also have the conference coming up next June, because 3 of the 5 women who attended this June said, we want to come back because you did an amazing job. that was because Rachel was so rocking it. So, but no, we did great together. So I just wanted to encourage you too, that it's like, take the first step and God just continues to open doors before you. That's what I've learned in NACWE too, a lot from all of you. So thank you.
And I'll add one more thing that even goes way back. So when I first met Barb, I told her that when I was in high school, and this was many, many years ago, when I was in high school, I was homeschooled, and we would have to do the 50 states and their capitals. Don't ask me what they are because I don't know. So we'd have to do them. And I remember in high school, 9th or 10th grade, looking at the western side of the U.S. and saying all the states I wanted to visit when I got older. No, seriously. And Washington and Idaho were on the list. I am going to be almost 40 years old. And something that, I don't know why, it just was something was always in my heart. I love trees and beauty and mountains. I don't know if that was it. But how many years later, I had no idea that desire that God put in my heart in high school, 9th or 10th grade, almost 2 decades later, I would be going to those very same places. I would never have dreamed that this is what it's going to be. When God gives you a purpose, it may take a long time. The Israelites are walking around in circles for 40 years. Was because they were disobedient, but so don't do 40 years in a circle. But when God makes a promise, he does not go back on it. He gives his talents and his gifts to us without repentance. And so when God has put something in your heart, in your soul, it doesn't matter how long it takes. It may not make any sense. I don't know anybody in Washington or Idaho. Like, what am I doing?
Now you do.
I'm a Jamaican girl out in Idaho, or Washington or Spokane. Like, what are you doing here? But when you follow God's purpose and when you're willing to do what makes no sense, when you want to close your eyes and jump and say, God, either you're going to break my feet and you're going to heal them, or I'm going to land and be okay. He honors that. God honors faith. He honors your faith. That's what activates God's is faith. It's saying, I trust you. This makes no sense at all. I think you're kind of crazy, but this is what you want me to do. This is where you want me to go. I'm up for it. So Barb and my connection happened when I was in high school. I didn't even know what Barb was doing when I was in 10th grade. You know what I mean? But that's where God connected us 2 decades ago, spiritually and physically, 3 years ago at NACWE. That's amazing. Like, I'm always amazed when I think about it, just how God worked. So that's my 2 cents.
Very cool. Karen, you have anything else to add, or anybody else want to jump in?
I think we need that testimony just by itself recorded. We may get you and Barb to do a little testimony of how God was working in your lives 20 years ago. I think that's just priceless. And it's what we would need to be reminded of when we feel kind of stuck in our business and ministry. I know I do. So, I mean, that's why I think I cling to the NACWE community, because there's testimony after testimony after testimony of how, don't forget God is working in your life. I want to invite, as we close out, someone to pray us out and pray specifically for Rachel and these 3 programs that she has to offer, and especially for Barb and Rachel as they get ready to go forward for this. This is going to be huge. I would love to be there. I'd love to be there with the women who've lost babies, because that's been my work since 1995. I keep looking at the schedule like, is there any way God can get me? He may do that. Who wants to pop in and do that prayer for us? Not Barb and Rachel. I want someone else to pray for them. Okay, I'll do it then. Let me do that. So, Father God, we're so grateful. I'm grateful because now my heart's on fire again for planning and knowing that there are steps to take, and that it's not going to overwhelm me so much that I have, a shutdown moment. And that's just a great reminder to do it, that your steps are ordered through it. I'm so grateful for Rachel's gift to us this month and her returning to us as well as a member. She's been so valuable to us. So I just pray a special blessing over her, over these next few weeks of training, over these programs that she's so graciously designed at a discount for NACWE members. And I pray, Lord, that you will bring exactly the right teams to those programs, that you would bless Rachel, that you expand her borders beyond what she's even dreamed, that you would expand her ability. It's a gift to be able to see you working, Lord, even 20 years ago, and that you would just even expand her ability to see the way you've been working in her life and the way you will work in her life in the future. I pray a special blessing over Barb and Rachel, and just ask that the people they've already ministered to in this last conference that they did are remembering the blessings and leaning on you, Lord, for all that they got from them. And then I pray for the special group that they're getting ready to minister to, especially to the small group of young women who've lost children to death. We know their hearts are broken, Lord, for the rest of their lives, and they need a special touch. So I just pray for an ability to really listen and hear them from Rachel and Barb, to be really sensitive about what they actually say they need and what Barb and Rachel have to offer. And then an ability to kind of shift gears for that next day's all-day conference. It's going to be really intense and lots of information, kind of a different crowd. I just pray a special blessing on them, and I forget the lady's name, but the lady who kind of just invited them there and is really helping put things together for them. I pray again that borders are expanded all around, not just for Barb and Rachel, but for this woman who helped them bring them there, and for everyone you're bringing into their classrooms those few days that weekend. We just pray a special blessing on them. Ask, Lord, that what we do is pleasing to you, that we're good stewards, that we're reaching out and loving and touching on others, that people are seeing Christ in us in our businesses and ministries every step of the way. And we ask these things in Jesus Christ's holy name. Amen. Thank you so much, Rachel. I'm on fire. On fire.
Yeah, me too.
I'm like buzzing here. So you're the hero for the month, I'm telling you. We look forward to seeing you next week. Same place, same station, you guys. Make sure other NACWE members know that you really got a lot out of this. When we post a replay, we want some comments. So that's your homework for the day from your NACWE president, for what that's worth. God bless you all. I love you so much. We're going to bow out. Pray for Lou and I as we're on the road. We're going to hoof it today to Kim Smith's house. We'll see how much progress we make today. But thank you, and we'll see you guys next week for sure, right? God bless.
All right.
Yep.
See ya.
Bye. All right.